By the time the video of the flickering lights surfaced, the internet had already exploded with theories, some calling it a haunting, others insisting it was a setup by the family to gain sympathy. But within hours a new piece of the puzzle emerged when a supposed former assistant of Diane Keaton, who identified herself only as LM, claimed that the quiet house was not just a home but a vault for something far more valuable than money. She described long nights when Diane would arrive at the property carrying sealed envelopes, boxes labeled with dates and strange symbols and instructions that no one was allowed to question. According to this assistant, Diane kept records of every deal, every friendship, and every betrayal that had touched her career, and those records might expose more than a few powerful names in Hollywood. The story took another strange turn when an unnamed lawyer leaked what appeared to be fragments of her estate paperwork, suggesting that several of Diane's properties were connected through offshore trusts that looped back to companies in Luxembourg and Monaco. It sounds absurd for a woman who famously claimed she preferred simplicity and silence. Yet the evidence pointed to an empire built on secrets. Fans were shocked, but former colleagues were not. One producer even joked during a podcast that Diane could negotiate a contract better than any Wall Street shark, and now people are wondering if that sharpness went deeper than business. Reports say members of her family tried to gain access to the quiet house last week but were stopped by private security who claimed they were acting under legal instruction. The lock on the main gate had been changed the day after the funeral, and the key in the velvet box did not fit it. What kind of estate changes its locks right after the owner's death, and who paid for it? No one seems to know. The local sheriff's department refused to comment on whether an investigation was underway, but neighbors claimed they saw moving trucks late at night hauling something large wrapped in white tarps. Online sleuths are convinced these were artworks or vintage furniture worth millions, but one blogger insists they were boxes of documents and that someone in the Hollywood elite was cleaning up before journalists arrived. Meanwhile, the family's lawyer has gone silent, and reporters stationed outside the property say they have been warned to keep their distance. Every day more supposed witnesses come forward, each one adding another layer to the chaos. One former contractor said he once stumbled upon a hidden basement door in the quiet house that Diane told him never to open, and that he quit the next day. The mystery now is not only about where the money went, but what exactly Diane was hiding from everyone, including her own family. And what could be so explosive that even in death it has to stay locked away? Within a week of the family being turned away from the property, the story had become national news, and reporters from every major outlet were parked outside the iron gates of the quiet house, waiting for something to happen. Then one morning a convoy of black SUVs arrived carrying what witnesses said were investigators from a private financial intelligence firm hired by an unnamed beneficiary of the estate. They were seen carrying briefcases, scanning the grounds, and entering through a side door that no one knew existed. Hours later, a rumor broke online that they had discovered a hidden room behind the library wall, a chamber filled with boxes of files, tapes, and what looked like personal letters, signed by names that sent a chill through the entertainment industry. The alleged content of those letters suggested that Diane had been quietly financing projects for people she claimed to dislike, manipulating film budgets to favor her allies, and storing evidence of others' wrongdoings to protect herself. It was not about greed, it was control. A private insurance policy built over 40 years in Hollywood. When the first reports of the discovery leaked, the family's spokesperson tried to dismiss it as fiction. But then photographs began circulating, showing stacks of labeled folders and a vintage safe bearing Diane's initials. The mystery deepened when a bank statement surfaced online showing that one of her shell companies transferred $10 million to a nonprofit that never existed on record. Internet detectives went into overdrive, tracing the money trail that seemed to vanish into a digital void. Public reaction shifted from sympathy to shock, and talk shows debated whether Diane Keaton had been a secret mastermind of her own financial web or a victim of powerful players she tried to outsmart. The government has not officially announced any investigation, yet sources claim the IRS and FBI are both quietly reviewing her assets, which means the so-called quiet house may soon become anything but quiet. For her fans, it is heartbreaking to see a beloved figure wrapped in this level of controversy, yet others find it poetic that her final performance is unfolding like one of her own films, full of secrets, longing, and quiet revenge. As night falls on the estate, the lights flicker once again. Cameras flash through the iron fence, and the world watches, still waiting for someone to step out of the shadows and finally unlock the truth. Diane left behind, so now the question remains. What was Diane Keaton really trying to say with all of this? Was the quiet house her final message to the world? A symbol of control and legacy? Or was it a warning to those who thought they could define her life after she was gone? Every clue we uncover only leads to another question. Every rumor sounds just believable enough to sting. And every new leak feels like part of a story that may never end. Maybe the truth is still buried somewhere behind those locked doors, waiting for the right person to find it. Or maybe Diane planned it that way so no one would ever really know. Either way, this mystery is far from over, and you can bet that the next piece of information will shake Hollywood to its core. What do you think really happened inside the quiet house? Was Diane a genius, a manipulator, or just misunderstood by the people who claim to love her? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share this with someone who still believes stars are as perfect as their movies. And make sure to subscribe, because the story behind this story. Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up because Hollywood's classiest queen just dropped a bombshell from beyond the velvet grave. Yes, you heard that right, Diane Keaton, the queen of quirky hats, vintage homes, and I don't single quotes T-need-A-man energy, has apparently left behind a fortune so massive, so mind-twistingly enormous, that her own family is in tears. But wait, not the happy kind of tears. Oh no, we're talking you single quotes VE-got-2-kidding me. How could she do is this real life or a Netflix docuseries kind of crying? Because according to anonymous insiders, and you know those are the best kind, Diane didn't just spend her golden years collecting Oscars and old furniture. She was quietly building a secret empire that would make even Jeff Bezos raise an eyebrow. But here's where it gets juicy. Not everyone was meant to inherit the Hollywood treasure chest. Rumors are swirling faster than TikTok conspiracy threads. Some say Diane's final will cut out entire branches of her family tree. Others claim there's a hidden vault. And one source insists there's a letter that changes everything. For decades, the world adored Diane Keaton as the charmingly awkward Hollywood legend with vintage hats and a heart of gold, but behind the calm smile and beige turtlenecks, something else was brewing, a secret so bizarre that even her closest friends are whispering about it today. Because after her death, what seemed like a perfectly polished life has turned into a labyrinth of mystery, greed, and whispered betrayal. According to those close to the Keaton estate, the drama began the moment her will was read. What was supposed to be a quiet family gathering turned into an emotional demolition. The family expected the classic Hollywood ending, a graceful goodbye, wrapped in sentiment and shared fortune. But instead they were handed a legal document that felt more like a plot twist written by Alfred Hitchcock. Instead of checks and shares, there was one small velvet box inside it, a single antique key tied with a faded white ribbon, and attached to it, a handwritten note that simply read, "The quiet house." That's when the crying started, and trust me, it wasn't poetic movie crying, it was ugly real estate crying, because the quiet house isn't just any home, it's a sprawling, secluded property that Diane guarded like a fortress. She designed it herself decades ago, far from the paparazzi cameras. Every room curated with precision, from antique oak floors to walls lined with her personal journals. But the strange part is, no one in her family was ever allowed inside. For years, she described it as her creative sanctuary, a place she went to think and rebuild her spirit after failed relationships and fading fame. But now the family suspects it was much more than that. Some claim it hides the truth behind her wealth, a fortune larger than anyone knew existed. Leaked whispers from someone who allegedly handled her taxes suggest Diane had been quietly moving millions into shell companies under the guise of restoration projects, buying crumbling California estates, refurbishing them, and selling them through dummy corporations. She called them ghost houses. Each sale turned massive profit, yet nothing appeared under her name, like she wanted the world to think she was humble while secretly building an empire worth more than $150 million. The question that's breaking the internet right now is simple: why leave behind a key and not cash? Why create a riddle for her family instead of comfort? Some think it was poetic closure, her way of teaching them about independence. Others think it was pure revenge against relatives who once mocked her choices and distanced themselves when she stopped working in big films. One insider who claims to have seen early drafts of her will said Diane called the key a lesson, not a gift, whatever that means. And here's the strangest rumor yet. Apparently, a surveillance video from the property was discovered, showing lights flickering in the windows days after her funeral, as if someone or something was already inside the quiet house waiting.